Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I want you to think about something for a moment. Communication in your life. Communication is everything, whether it's digital, whether it's verbal, whether you're sending an email, whatever it is, we are communicating. So, wouldn't you want to communicate more effectively and then go a little bit deeper in that? In that, everything we do, there's a story. We're telling a story. Even if you're sending a work email, there's probably some kind of story, maybe a loose one connected to that. Are you effectively telling that story? We're going to talk with somebody who can enlighten us on all of this. She's a storytelling coach. I didn't even know that existed. She's also a screenwriter and have been learning a lot from her in the past couple of weeks. Even the word parable. I haven't heard that word in forever. It means a lot. She is Michelle Cutler. She's back with us. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing very well, very well.
Good.
Been telling stories. We've been telling stories over the past few weeks. Before we get deeper into that, what makes a good storytelling coach? I would not even know how to differentiate.
Right. I think, to be honest, it was very hard for me to take the word coach into my identity or into what I do. I've been doing this for years as a writer. I always said that I can see the story through the trees. Like when people tell me, go on and on about something, somewhere in there I start to see the kernels of a story, and kind of help to bring that out by being a good listener, asking questions. I have just sort of an innate sensibility that about drama, about conclusions, about conflicts, about hooks, characters. Why do we feel something about someone we don't know? Where's the empathy come in? The emotional response, the emotional register. And then, of course, I also went to school for this. I went to NYU, New York University, for graduate film program. So I spent a lot of time analyzing films, drama, literature. And I think the combination of just having some good life experience and some good training has made me quite good at this, in terms of being able to help people tell a story effectively, understand what the story is they want to tell and why, who to whom, and then how can we do that? How can we get there? So, like I said, the word coach was hard for me to adopt because it's something, it's a Google search word, coach.
Sure.
But I realized that when I actually look at what I do and I ask people to give reviews and to give me feedback, that's actually what I'm doing. Like we watch the Olympics, as I've been doing, I told you, and you always see that coach on the sideline, they're in there, they're in the ring with that boxer, they're on the diving board with that diver, they're just right there with you, and helping you get to that place. You are already there, you are the talent. It just helps to have someone see that in you and sort of coax it out, bring it out a bit. And then there are tools and skills that you develop as you go.
Part of what you do is analyzing a project that somebody might be working on. Maybe it's an article, a pitch for something, maybe it's a website, whatever it might be. You take a look at it and clean it up, if you will, maybe make it more to the point and tell that story. Actually make it clear. For many of us, we don't know how to do that. We just throw thoughts down and hope it makes sense. Hopefully, before you send an email, you look at it again, maybe shave a couple of words off, get closer to the point. But by and large, we don't know what we're doing. We're just talking and hoping it's clear.
Yeah, and I think it's gotten a little bit, in a good way, the sort of restraints of formality have come down with technology, with emails, with messaging and Twitter and all of these things. The formality of how we communicate has come down, which is very good in a way that
Sure.
people don't feel so restricted. At the same time, it's very easy to put messages out there that you may not be ready to share. Like they may not be fully formed yet. It may be a thought, the kernel of an idea that you wish you had maybe held back a little bit on to spend a little more time with it. There's an editor for Huffington Post for the personal essays who says sometimes it's good to sit on a story for a little bit, like just wait it out a little bit. It may not be ready yet. Sometimes that can take years. That can also just take perhaps a walk with your dog through your hometown, just something to get that moment, right?
I'm trying to think of the filter. It's a 3-pronged filter. Before you do anything, send any email. Is it kind? Is it necessary? And I think the other one is it true? That you want to put it through before you even press send, because a lot of times we might not be kind. Same thing with a text. So that triggered me to say that when you said sit on it.
Yeah.
You have communication. Wait before you do it, right?
Yeah, I would add to that list, which is a great list, is it urgent? Because I think also there's what could be a plethora of information, of stories. I mean, think about when you look, if we're talking about technology, if you look at, let's say, a Facebook post and just the threads that can follow of one post, and they become just the snowball of opinions, and that they may catch you. I mean, it's happened to me. I could be looking at something, it catches me in a moment. I'm like, and I start to write something like, oh, I know what I'm going to say. And then I think, oh, geez, out of context, that could sound a little bit strong,
Yes.
or it could sound flippant. Perhaps it sounds like I'm making light of something that I'm not, but the tone and voice are so important. I mean, if we're talking literary or artistic writing, it's their tone of voice. You think about comedians, the best comedians are really the best storytellers. And, they have a voice. Jerry Seinfeld tells a story very differently from Dave Chappelle. They could tell the same story in just completely different ways because of the way they observe life, their own experiences, their voice. Sure. We all have the exact same capabilities. We all have them. It's just some people are better at it.
Yes.
I would say Dave Chappelle is one of the best, I would never put myself I would love to put myself in the room with Dave Chappelle to hang out and talk stories. But I would say his 2-hour, a 2-hour comedy special is a very hard thing to do.
It's a great point in that if you have somebody who you like, you continually listen to them, and eventually you'll pick up some of the nuances and you don't even know you're doing it. George Carlin, always loved him since I was in my 20s, and I would just listen to his bits. And he would even tell you, how he's doing it in terms of the tone of his voice. Sometimes he up here, and then it's almost like a song as he's speaking, because he's moving around and he's up and down. And I appreciated that and learned a lot just listening to some of his bits. But of course, the ending is very important. Of course, with a joke. that's
Absolutely.
Rhetorical. Yeah. But also ending on a story. Where are we going with this? What's the end point? Or is it just ... How do we craft a perfect ending to any story or communication?
Well, I think so. I was thinking about this in terms of my own experience, where I went in to pitch an idea or pitch a book that I'm writing, and to an agent, a literary agent. I think it may have been the first pitch session I had on this project. And I felt I had all of the setup. I had the characters, I had the world, I had everything there. I even had the narrative, the journey. But what I didn't realize I didn't have, because she asked me, so how does it end? And I thought, oh my gosh, isn't this enough? Isn't this enough? You want to know how it ends too? And then I sat there for a minute, and I'm so glad she put me on the spot, because I figured out the ending. It was there all along. I hadn't formalized it. And the ending was, I made a promise to my mother that I would not let her die alone. And then, is that the end of the story? No, in the end, that becomes the beginning of the story. And the end is sort of, I'm still living the end. So some stories don't have an ending until you've lived them. I mean, you can't force an ending, but you can you can definitely look at an ending as, you know, a bookend or a mirror to the opening. Like, where did we open? What are the sort of questions we're proposing when we begin to tell a story? What's the listener or the reader? Why are they latching on to this ride? Where are they going to go? They want to end up
Well,
somewhere, right? So, like, if we look at your story, the one we've been sort of working on, sort of impromptu, we started with the situation where you were surprised by the not hearing that a friend of yours passed away, and you were asked to speak about her, right? And so we talked about how memories flood in, and they're to then formalize what you want to say about this person. You have to kind of sift through all of those memories,
sure.
right? And find one or two that become the representatives of sort of the bigger story with that person. And then we were talking about how a week later you were sort of processing this experience, and we were talking about origin stories, right? So you made the great point of saying an origin is also like a beginning, or like the first time. So it could be the first time we met, or yours and my origin story. I could write
Or
about
our
that at this
names,
point,
or our
right?
names. We talked about our names.
Exactly, or
Yeah.
our names, exactly. And so your story of taking your dog for a walk also ran into another part of a story that you then later, a week later, realized was a different story, because you said, let me tell you the karaoke story. And I thought, oh, I haven't heard the karaoke story. And then when you were telling the story, I was like, oh, this is the dog story. The dog story has become the karaoke story, because that was actually more important, right? The songs that you heard, that was the profound moment. The dog
Yes.
story led you to this moment, right? And then you even went further, because you're a curious person, and you researched those songs. When did they come out? How did those dates interact with your own history, your own story, right? And so you, on your own, just through the prompting, just through us sort of talking these things through, we're starting to build this narrative, right, of this story, which could be, a story about, like, as we honoring a loved one. Also, I saw a story about strong women who have influenced you in your life, right? Because you're looking to your mom, you remembered your aunt, right, in this small town, and this was triggered by this woman that you worked with in radio for many years.
Yes.
Right. So you see, there's so many, but now, so here we're at what could be the ending for this story? What could be an ending? There can be many.
I have it, and it's not really an ending. It's I guess, a parable, because and I don't think we ever got to it. So, and I'll laser this down. My friend passed, worked many years in radio with her, and I took a walk with my dog and just needed a moment, and walked through the town where I grew up, and it just happened to be there. And I asked my mother for signs. Send me something, like, you know what I'm feeling here, because she was part of my radio journey as well, and she passed away about 5 years ago. Went to a place, they're doing karaoke, and the songs that the people picked randomly, millions, bazillions of songs, was a song called The Rose, my mom's name. Then the next song was on the radio, Donna Summer. That's says it all right there. And then another song after that was Spirit of Radio by the band Rush. So all these things are hitting me in 12 minutes while I'm sitting there with my dog. And my ending would be, ask for a sign. If you want some inspiration, if you believe that there's a, greater, that maybe those who have passed on, their energy is with us. This is what I believe after doing things like this. And somebody said to me, oh, your friend Maria who passed, she was there too. That's why she sent the radio songs. I'm like, I didn't think of that. But that would be my ending, to inspire those two, because I feel a lot of times there's signs all around. We don't see them because we're so busy. And but I took the time intentionally just to take a walk. So that would be my ending. I don't know if that's a suitable ending, but that's what I got.
Well, it could be, then a short story, an essay about signs, about how there's signs around us everywhere. And this is your experience, your story about signs that become evident in your life. I was also thinking that, let's say you wanted to write an article, or you were asked to write an article about radio. So this was my idea that I was thinking about from your
Sure.
story,
Sure.
is that, and of course, because I'm not you, so I can take it out, I can be a bit more out of the box, right? And
Mhm.
so I was thinking about how, remember when we couldn't control the playlist? Remember when songs would come on and they
Right.
would just be
Right.
like, it would be like this moment, like the first time I went on a date with my partner, the first time we kissed in the car, the DJ said something on the radio about this musician who had died, a musician who we both liked. But we didn't know we both liked that musician. We had only just met. And so we were kissing. The DJ said the death of this musician, and we both stopped and went, "Oh." And I was like, "Oh, this means we both love this music." You know, it was like the sign to me, but it came through the radio, right?
Mm,
This
mm,
a
mm.
song.
It connected
So
you. It connected you and who you were
exactly.
with.
And so if you then think about today, we program everything. We have our Spotify playlist, we have our playlist we listen to when we jog, or our playlist when we prepare for something,
For
and
sure.
we're controlling our playlist. Whereas the beauty of radio, the original radio, was the DJs, was the
Hmm.
what you couldn't control, what was unexpected that would come into you. And then that forms memory.
Interesting.
Remember back in 7th grade when we went to see Stop Making Sense, or, you know, so I could say you could write something using this story that we've been working on about how the things we can't control are also so valuable. Like you look for signs, right? But you can't force the sign. You can't
No.
say, "Come on, sign, come to me, mom. Mom, give me a sign right now." You know, you can't do, you can, but it doesn't mean it'll happen. So there's
Exactly.
this balance between sort of trusting the universe and looking for things within there, looking for things. And then also there is some element of control. You chose to take yourself to a certain place, you chose to sit down, you chose to pay attention,
Mm,
right? So there's that's
mm.
your control. As we spoke before, you could have just been on your phone with your own little playlist
And missed
and missed the
and
whole
missed it
thing,
all.
missed the
Right.
moment.
And
Yeah.
great. I didn't see, and this is why you're great at what you do. I didn't see the the karaoke connection to radio, because you're right. I could have been listening to the radio at that moment.
Mhm.
People were picking songs, but it could have been the disc jockey picking songs. Would have been the same thing, and these songs came on. So I could have been listening to any station and gotten the same thing. I just happened to be
Mhm.
outside, and interestingly, in the town where I grew up, my mom and all of that. So there's different way to look at it. I didn't even
Mhm.
see it that way. But you're right. Our lives are so controlled. Like everything is, and it kind of takes the fun away a little bit, of the
Yeah.
spontaneity of not knowing what's coming next. Wow.
So you could write that as like an op-ed. So let's say you're my client and we're working on this together, and you're
Sure.
looking for, you need some bylines, you need some published pieces, you need something that shows, here's Steve, he's an expert in radio, in the history of radio. He's been working in radio for 20 plus years, and you want to remind people that you exist. You know, I'm here. There's
Sure.
so many people. I'm here, right? Let's just say for your business, you needed to do this. We would work on this story in a way to craft it so that you could then say, I can now take this out as someone who knows so much about this subject and make it relevant to things that people think about today and every day. We know that technology, we have so many apps that tell us what to do and when, what to eat and when, how much to run, how much to walk, how much to sleep. I mean, it's insane. I mean, it's not, it is a little bit insane. At what point, where do you let this technology be your tool, like something that you wield, rather than having it control you? And so much of this is about, as you're saying, being very present, looking for signs, keeping your ears open, keeping your eyes open.
Hmm.
And then what I do is I just help you make the connections. And then we start to look at a structure. You know, like, where's the humor? Where do we see the
Right.
dog? Is the dog your co-pilot in this story? Is the dog the comic relief in this story? are you the straight, are you the Dean Martin and the dog is Jerry Lewis? Like how, I mean, now I'm excited. I feel like there's,
I am too, and we're out of time. Because I didn't see it. That's again, the beauty of what you do, looking at, when I told the story, the comical part of it was when I was walking my dog and I never get him out, and he came up to a pole that's dedicated to my aunt, my mom's sister, and there's a plaque on the pole, and he was about to pee on the pole. I'm like, no, not that one. Pick any of any.
Perfect.
The pole is okay, but not that one. Yeah,
that's perfect. That's so perfect.
Maybe next time we get together. So real quick, the elements of a story: relevancy, relatability, a little bit of humor. Maybe we could do that. But I do want to say, if somebody wants some help with their story or their communication, reach out, instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com, and we'll loop you in here and you could tell your story. No judgment, and we can work on it together. instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. And Michelle, for you, if somebody wants to connect directly with you and maybe pick your brain about this whole process, how do they do that?
Sure. I have a website, which is my name, Michelle Cutler, MICHELLE Cutler.com. With a contact form. And if you mention that you've been listening on the Podcast Business Network, I'd love to do a 15-minute free consultation with you just to see what you're up to, see what you need, what you think what you're looking for, and we can see if we can work something out from there. And then hopefully we'll hear a story next week.
Yeah.
And we can work on that, because it's a lot of fun. As you see, it's fun.
It really is, once you start looking at it and your intention and what you're trying to achieve from it, and everything's communication. So that's the key right here. Michelle, great talking with you today. Really appreciate it.
You too.
All right. We'll catch up soon, and we are coming right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, I mean, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.